Hello, my Virgo friends. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about Jupiter's retrograde in Gemini. That's starting on October 9th, 2024, and will continue until February 4th, 2025. This video is based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I refer to Virgo, I'm referring to Virgo rising as dictating the house structure. So when I talk about the house, it's based on that. If you are a Virgo sun or a Virgo moon, you might want to check your rising sign. All you need is your exact time of birth and go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet and then check the sign that is your first house for your Jupiter retrograde video. All right, Virgo, let's start because this retrograde is hosting a square to Saturn. It'll be the second square to Saturn that we're experiencing. There will be 3 total. The third will be in 2025. And this is important because Jupiter is all about expansion and Saturn is all about compression or contraction. Saturn is currently in Pisces, which is your 7th house of relationships. So Saturn is walking through that house, asking you to be realistic about your both professional and contractual relationships, meaning professional, contractual relationships, and your marriage partnerships, intimate relationships. All contracts are held in the 7th house. We also see that any planets that are in that 7th house will be under Saturn's influence, asking for sustainability, slowing things down to actually look at the situation and see if it has the potential for expansion. So back in August, we had the exact square between Jupiter direct and Saturn retrograde. During Jupiter's retrograde, the exact square will be on December 24th. That's the holidays, which is, a pretty stressful time for most. But we're going to be feeling this in the from like the first few weeks of December all the way through until probably the 3rd week of January. Because as the planets come together, the energy will intensify. And then as they separate, it will be tense because we'll see Saturn will station at some point during this retrograde to move forward. And that's going to be a time when Saturn's energy is going to be very strong. So what we're looking at here for you is Gemini is your 10th house. The 10th house is the house of career, public reputation, ambition. It's a house where we look to for leadership. Here, having it be the sign of Gemini, this is going to take the Capricorn energy of the 10th house, which wants to build, and it's going to overlay the Gemini energy of how I think, how I speak, and how I process information. Meaning the information we get over the media, those short bits. Twitter is very Geminian. TikTok is very Geminian. We see Jupiter representing facets of government, and we see Saturn representing leadership. The square will very much potentially illuminate for my Virgos which direction they want to go for leadership, what they're looking for in the way of aligning to philosophies and ideologies that are resonating with where you want to move forward versus potentially where you've been. We have this aspect between Jupiter and Chiron that is happening at the same time that the retrograde starts. Jupiter will start to make a sextile to Chiron in what is your 8th house of transformation. It is a house that houses other people's money. It's a house that houses power and control over us. And the sextile is giving you a favorable energy to individualize yourself within that genre. So Chiron is essentially representing the wound of self in the house of other people's power and control over me. So I think this is important because this could have a lot to do with how you view your public reputation or how you view your responsibilities and your natural service to others. When we look at the Virgo energy, we are looking at a lot of selfless energy, but then at the same time, in its challenging energy, it can be very self-critical critical and expect more than it gets back. So I think this is important. I also wanted to say that when I, as an intuitive astrologer, when I view a square, I view it almost like a fork in the road. So when I look at Jupiter retrograding and being exact around the holidays, I have this feeling of how has my upbringing, my religious beliefs, the ideas of money. Jupiter rules wealth. So how have the ideas of money been shaped for me? And because Saturn's representing the history of it and potentially the lack thereof of resources of some kind. And I'm getting an opportunity to decipher, to discern, to reevaluate and see if the philosophies and ideologies that I am purporting are still applicable to this chapter or to this stage in my life. You know, as I have grown, I've learned that money is not just something you work hard for, but it's a vibration of belief. So people who believe that money comes to them easily experience that. And people who feel struggle experience that. So here I think that this Jupiter sextile Chiron gives you an opportunity to shift your beliefs from being of service to others for their happiness, for their benefit, potentially to an even exchange of energies between the two parties. That's really the recipe for success, is to create the win-win. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that in the Pisces energy, there is a strong wanting to escape. And having this opposition of Saturn being opposing your first house and then squaring your public reputation could very much have you trapped in a situation that doesn't serve you, or isn't, where you're not happy, or where, you know, things have been potentially erosive. Pisces is a place where we want to escape from the darkness of the human experience, and it calls for compassion. And sometimes that compassion isn't just for other people, but it's for ourselves as we align to something that's authentic to us, something that resonates with the deepest part of our heart. I also want to say for my Virgo rising that in your professional partnerships, I think it's important, before you sign on the dotted line, that you delineate if you and the people that you'll be working with have the same vision. Oftentimes with Jupiter being in Gemini, in its detriment, it looks too much at the big picture, and those little details that are so important to long-term health of a relationship or a dynamic can get missed. We think of Jupiter as the shaman, you know, living up on the temple in the monk's house. You know, now Jupiter has to come down into the valley of the human everyday experience and understand it's the subtle details that sometimes are the nuance between a win and a loss, or an achievement or a failure. So here, I think that's part of what's going on. And I think that directly ties into how you see Chiron in Aries right now, how you are transforming the wound into wisdom. And that wisdom will give you resources. The eighth house is a very powerful house for money. And as you recognize that the seventh house of where Saturn is transiting, and your career house being Gemini, this transformation of beliefs, that your desires, your want, that pioneering spirit, there's a strong hero energy inside of Aries. There is a strong warrior energy as well. And so when we fall down on either side of the fence, will I be a warrior or will I be a hero? Oftentimes it goes in direct relation to how I am of service to others. Am I in joyful service using my skills and my talents, or am I in dutiful service, almost like an indentured slave? Because I think that's where we're going to see sort of a reveal coming of some kind. And of course, that reveal doesn't necessarily feel like it's on the outside, but rather an interior job, a belief system. Well, I have to do this because I've always done it. And if I don't do it, it won't get done right. That's the kind of thing. And maybe if you relinquish that thought, and something other resource can come in and then alleviate a burden for you, or something that you no longer, maybe you're skilled out beyond something and you're still doing that act and you don't need to do it anymore because there's someone else who would benefit from that process. There's a strong sense of leadership in the 10th house. And sometimes the leadership isn't in always leading other people, but in understanding our own beliefs and how they ebb and they flow and they evolve. And when we give ourselves that opportunity, then we naturally represent that opportunity for others. And in the background of everything, we've got the United States presidential election. And while Jupiter's retrograde goes all the way to February, there's a good possibility that February 4th isn't that far away from January 20th, Inauguration Day. And we see Jupiter representing the Supreme Court, the House of Representatives, the Congress. We could see the Saturn energy on some level in the square representing presidential leadership energy. And a lot of this may end up being philosophies and ideas that shift as you experience new things outside of yourself, because the world is evolving and the United States is evolving as well. And that trickles down to each one of us. So overall, I think that this retrograde is going to revisit themes that happened again late July, mid to late July through September. And those themes are going to be the theme is to look one layer deeper, to look at the detail, to make sure I've crossed my T's and dotted my I's, and not just in my service to others, but in how I perceive me standing in leadership for myself, and in how I want to take my leadership into my collaborations and into my working with other people, so we can all benefit and make money. So overall, I think that there's, I'm not afraid of the squares. Again, Saturn has a tendency, while it initially represses something, it also sustains it and makes it viable over time. So when you can sort of work through the initial challenges of a Saturn transit, which is to slow it down for reevaluation, is it sustainable? Is it realistic? Is it practical? Is it buildable? And from there, Saturn will reward you when the answers are yes, 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 and yes. All right, that's it for Virgo, for your Jupiter in Gemini retrograde. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below and in the description. And if you would like to join me Sunday mornings, that's where we look at the week ahead's transits, and I do an angel reading and pull a tarot card for each sign to get the angel's advice for how to best traverse those transits and extract as much wisdom and comfort as we can from them. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I will see you soon.